Sometimes the best way to learn about what it's like to be in a time in history is to look at a first-hand account. Through the following letter, we can learn about Lloyd Wicks' experience in World War II. Lloyd Wicks grew up in Ralls. He lived in Ralls his whole life, with the exception of a few years when he attended law school in Austin, Texas. While in the Army, he was part of the 283rd Engineer Combat Battalion. Their responsibility was to build the bridge the troops used as they advanced on the enemy. In the following letter, Lloyd is writing to his nephew William, who has recently enlisted in the Army. Dear William, so you have become an international traveler. We were glad to hear from you and know where you were located, but some of the folks seemed to feel your discontent with your situation was somewhat overwhelming. I have tried to assure them that this was a very temporary thing that comes with being uprooted and set down in strange surroundings, especially without any violation on your part. As time wears on, this feeling wears off within the year or sooner. I am especially interested in where you are and think back on the time I was there with the sort of longing to a homesickness. I am not one of those who say that I never want to see France, England, Germany, and other places because I haven't lost anything over there. Actually, I didn't lose anything, but I did gain something from having been there. Gross gut. We had it tough during the war, and yet when I look back, the toughness fades, and I remember only the warm summer days and season or the beautiful hills, trees, and wonderland on other days. I think I was too scared most of the time during the war and for a few months afterwards while we were cleaning up mines, ammo dumps, to enjoy much of anything. We finished the war in the ETO at Cologne, considerably north and west of where you are now. We went back to a very small village called Schnanungen, 5 kilometers upriver from Schwechenfurt on the main river. Our headquarters company was stationed there. It was there that I really settled down to the realization that here I was and I could be as miserable as I wanted, or that I could occupy my time and try to be useful and have as good a time as possible under the circumstances. I have often thought that it was because I was willing that I began to get some breaks. First off, they pulled me into the S2 office and set me to the task of helping Lieutenant Ryan compile the history of our battalion. Cooper was unhappy in his job as a jeep driver, and as a result cussed out the motor pool sergeant. Lieutenant Ryan asked me to take over the job. This was a good break for me, although I thought at the time I was getting a job nobody else wanted. From there, I got the job of helping to remap the roads in the northern part of Bavaria, and as a consequence got to see much of the country that I would not otherwise have seen. I enjoyed it immensely. I would just pack in a bunch of rations and old German maps we had and take off, running out the roads to see if they went where the map showed that they did, how many of the bridges were still intact, etc. My German left somewhat to be desired at the time, but I sure tried to talk to everybody I came in contact with, and they tried volubly to tell me what I wanted to know, with no hollering, langsam, or whatever the word is for to go slowly in it at every other sentence. But I did get more and more proficient with the language and found it interesting. The more I got to where I could talk, the more willingly I found the natives to talk to me in exercising patience. In October late, an inquiry came through Frankfurt if there wasn't a lawyer in our outfit. We would like to go to London for additional training and schooling. We were well along on our mapping and had the history nearly ready for the printer in Schwechenfurt. Lieutenant Ryan was reluctant for me to go, and I was enthusiastic during my job. With the approval of Lieutenant Ryan, I said no to the offer, but in 3 or 4 days the telephone rang again, and some general on the other end told me to put the lieutenant on. Lieutenant Ryan just said yes sir, and then turned around with a grin and said that it was now official for me to go to London. The big brass weren't asking, just telling, so I went to London to be associated 2 months with the Lawrence, Messer and Company, a firm of solicitors just around the corner from the Bank of London and Fleet Street. When I returned from London just a short while before Christmas, I ran into a despairing situation. I had finally gotten out of London via boat across the channel to Dieppe, caught the train into Paris, but was fortunately grounded by fog in Paris for nearly a week, where I had to do some wrestling for food and lodging, not being attached to anything, and the Red Cross taking a dim view of tramps. But I had a fine sojourn there, seeing everything that was free and even paying for a few items. I made extensive visits to the Louvre, where I saw the Winged Victory, the Mona Lisa, and many thousands of objects Dart never heard of by me before. I flew into Frankfurt and made my inquiries of how to get the 283rd in Skoggen. At the headquarters for the Army, I could get precisely little information, except that they showed that the 283rd had moved from Skoggen and was stationed for a while at Würzburg, but from there had moved on to some place not yet determined. You may well imagine that scared the hell out of me. I hid myself away as quickly as possible and got a train to Würzburg, where I called one night to the CQ, and he told me that I could hop a ride the next morning in their Jeep to Nuremberg and possibly could there make contact. Sure enough, I did, and got back to my outfit stationed at Wesendale, just off the tip of Czechoslovakia. We spent Christmas, New Year's, and musical festival time skating, skiing from the time I got back until the time we finally pulled out to start home in late February. We had a fine time. I made a lot of friends in Wesendale, some of whom I would love to see again. Hans Peter was one of my best, a boy then about 12 years of age who had never in his life tasted Coca-Cola, and we were getting some by then. He had never tasted chewing gum, did not know what a pecan or peanut was. I had part of my Christmas with him and his family. I was able to talk Tennessee Jones, our cook, out of enough extra large sugar, raisins, and nuts to go with their flour to make Christmas cookies. It was great fun. Although it sounds very simple, this is what I mean when I say that you can find great pleasure in the most unexpected places. I had another friend, a 13-year-old girl called Ing, who got me an entry into her home, where I learned many of customs of that part of the country. There was a 4-story house where she lived, and it had 3 generations and 5 families of Germans in it. I visited them with them often and took many meals with them. Well, so much for a great deal of bull. I would like to hear from you about what is going on there with you, the country, and the girls. Send us some pictures of yourself, the scenery, road signs, anything that may be of interest. They tell a lot and save writing. You will be glad in later years that